Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving deep into Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Oh, yeah, classic.
I know, right? It's like one of those books you just can't escape even if you haven't actually read it.
You still know the gist.
Totally. But we're going deeper than the gist
Go
today.
deep.
We're going to unpack what all this Mars-Venus stuff really means for us, for our relationships, like the nitty-gritty.
Absolutely. I mean, this book really hit a nerve with people when it first came out and still today, and we're going to figure out why.
Exactly. So let's start with that biggie, the core concept. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Right off the bat.
Catchy, but what's the real takeaway here? What's John Gray actually getting at?
Well, picture this. Two different planets, right? Each with its own totally unique culture, way of life,
Okay, I'm picturing it.
their own language.
Yeah.
That's men and women, according to John Gray. It's like we're not just different, we're practically from different worlds.
Different planet.
Different planets.
So it's not about saying one is better.
Oh, absolutely not, no.
It's about understanding these differences
Recognizing them, yeah, and how they play out in our daily lives, how we interact with each other.
in our relationships.
Especially in relationships, yeah, because, it's like you're trying to talk to someone who speaks a totally different language.
Oh, I've been there.
Right. And you're saying the same words, but the meaning, totally lost.
Lost in translation.
Totally.
Yeah.
And boom, that's where all those classic Martian-Venusian misunderstandings come in.
So how does this Mars-Venus thing actually show up in relationships? Like, we're not dealing with actual aliens here, right?
Well, sometimes it can feel like it, but one example, and Gray talks about this a lot, is how men and women deal with stress. Men, they tend to retreat when they're stressed.
Classic man cave, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They need that space, that time to process everything internally, silently,
To go to their cave and think things through.
Exactly. And it's not about rejecting the problem, it's just how they deal.
Okay, but what's going on for them in there, psychologically, in the cave?
Well, think about it. For men, solving problems is how they show they care, a lot of times.
Oh, interesting.
So, going to their cave, it's not about you, it's them trying to process so they can come back with a solution.
So they can come back and fix it.
Exactly. It's their way of being a hero.
I like that. The cave as a superhero charging station.
Yeah.
But what are the Venusians doing while the guy is off in his cave?
Well, women, on the other hand, they're wired for connection.
Yeah.
Especially when they're stressed, they want to talk it out,
Seek that support, yeah.
Yeah, to feel understood, to connect.
Which can lead to clashes.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
Big time. When he wants his cave and she wants to connect, so
Yeah.
the key. Recognizing both are valid.
Not taking it personally, right?
Exactly. He's not being distant on purpose. She's not being clingy. They're just different.
From different planets.
Different planets, yeah. And once you get that, communication gets so much easier.
Oh, communication. That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
Like the whole men are from Mars, women are from Venus thing plays out so much in how we communicate day to day, right?
Absolutely. It affects everything.
Like the whole men are all about solutions and women are about emotions.
Yes. Classic Mars-Venus clash. He wants to fix it. She wants to feel heard.
Ugh, tell me about it. How many times have I been trying to just vent to my partner and he jumps into fix-it mode? Like, honey, I don't need you to fix this. Just listen.
Exactly. That's it right there. That's Mars and Venus colliding. He thinks he's being helpful. She wants empathy. And what's crazy, neither is wrong.
They're just different.
Totally different approaches.
So how do we get past that? How do we make sure we're speaking the same language, even if we're from different planets?
Well, first of all, women need to be clear about what they need. Like, honey, I just need to vent. I don't need solutions right now.
And men. Resist the urge to fix it.
Exactly. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just listen. That sounds rough. I can see why you're upset. That kind of thing.
Just acknowledge those feelings.
Validate them. Yeah, that goes a long way.
So the solution, I ask the connection, not always the fix. Wow, that's deep. Now, I want to talk about another big thing from the book that I think a lot of people relate to. Emotional needs.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Like the idea that men and women have different emotional needs in relationships. Figuring that out is like key, right?
Absolutely. It's like having a cheat sheet to your partner's heart.
So let's dive into that. What are some of the key differences Gray points out between men and women here?
Okay, so he says men, they crave respect, appreciation, trust.
They want to feel like they're doing a good job.
Yeah, like they're competent, valuable.
Like the classic provider-protector role.
Exactly.
And you know what? I think sometimes we as women, we forget how much they need that.
Oh, we do. It's not just about saying thank you for taking out the trash. It's deeper. It's about acknowledging their efforts, their skills, making them feel like the heroes they want to be.
Okay, I love the superhero thing again. It's sticking with me.
Hmm.
But what about the women, the Venusians? What do we need?
For women, it's more about feeling cared for, understood, cherished.
More on that emotional level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like those deep conversations, those moments of true connection, feeling seen and heard, not just for what they do, but for who they are.
And this is where things can get tricky, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because he might be showing love by working hard, providing, but she might be craving that emotional connection.
Exactly. And she might be showering him with affection, but he might need that acknowledgement of his efforts, or he'll feel taken for granted.
It's like we're speaking different love languages.
Perfect analogy. And that's where the love tank comes in. Gray says we all have this tank that needs to be filled with love and appreciation.
Okay, the love tank, that's a good one. So how do we keep those tanks full? How do we make sure we're speaking the right love language and not just missing each other completely?
Well, it's about those little everyday things. Like for a man, it might be fixing that leaky faucet without being asked.
It's about taking initiative,
Yeah. Or giving a genuine compliment, really meaning it. It's like saying, I see you, I appreciate you.
being that reliable guy.
Exactly.
What about for women? How do we fill his love tank?
Well, it could be something like expressing genuine appreciation for his efforts, really listening after a long day.
Making him feel heard?
Yeah. Or planning a date night, something thoughtful. It's about creating those moments of closeness and connection, making him feel loved and cherished.
So it's not always about grand gestures.
None at all.
It's the small, consistent things.
Exactly. Little deposits in that love bank account.
I like that. So, like, how do we even figure out what our partner's love language is? Do we just ask them straight up?
You can definitely have that conversation, which can be great.
Be direct about it?
Yeah. But you can also pay attention. How do they show love to you?
Oh, good point.
We tend to give love the way we want to receive it.
Interesting. So, like, if he's always doing little things to make my life easier, maybe his love language is acts of service.
Exactly. And if she's always giving compliments and words of encouragement, maybe hers is words of affirmation?
We got to be detectives.
Yeah.
Figure out their currents.
You got it. Become a student of your partner. Pay attention to what makes them tick.
Once you crack the code, you can start making those love deposits.
Yeah.
This whole concept is so insightful. It's like we're getting this roadmap to our relationships.
Exactly. And speaking of navigating relationships, Gray also talks about how to deal with conflict. Because let's face it, even when you understand this whole Mars-Venus thing,
Fights happen.
they do.
Yeah.
So how do we handle those fights constructively? How do we fight fair? That's where men are from Mars, women are from Venus really shines, giving us the tools to do just that.
Yeah, it really does give us those tools.
Like, even when you get the whole Mars-Venus thing, disagreements are going to happen.
Oh, they happen for sure.
It's inevitable.
But it's not about avoiding conflict altogether.
Right.
It's more about how to navigate those rough waters.
To fight fair.
Yeah, so you come out stronger. So give us the goods. What are some of Gray's, like, golden rules for arguing?
Yeah.
You know, for Martians and Venusians who actually want to stay together afterwards.
Well, one of the biggest things he talks about is validation.
Validation.
Even if you don't agree with your partner, try to see their side of things. Acknowledge their feelings.
So even if you're like, this is so dumb, in your head,
Right. Even then.
you say something like, hey, I hear you. You're feeling frustrated because...
Exactly. Sometimes just feeling heard is enough to calm things down.
To de-escalate. Yeah.
Yeah. It shows you respect them, that their
Mhm.
feelings are valid.
Even if you don't agree with them.
Exactly. And that's huge.
So that's that saying, what is it? We can disagree without being disagreeable.
I love that.
Right. That's a good one. And Gray also says to avoid blaming or attacking your partner.
Oh, yeah. Crucial.
Like, remember, you're on the same side here,
A team.
even when it feels like you're not.
Exactly. So instead of like, you always do this or you never listen, try to say it differently.
More constructively, yeah.
Right. Talk about how their actions make you feel.
Not like they're intentionally trying to hurt you.
Yeah, something like, when you do this, it makes me feel,
It's about owning your feelings,
and expressing them in a way that helps your partner understand.
which reminds me of another thing Gray talks about, taking breaks,
Oh, the timeout.
especially when things get heated,
Crucial. Especially for those Martians, they might need that cave time
to cool off.
to process, yeah. And for the Venusians, it's a chance to really think about what you want to say.
Because, let's be real, nothing good comes out when you're both, like, super emotional and worked up.
Exactly. You're not going to have a rational conversation then.
No way. But the key with those breaks, I think, is to actually use them to calm down.
Right. not just sit there and stew.
Exactly.
Go for a walk, listen to music, meditate, whatever helps you chill out.
Anything to get a fresh perspective.
Yeah. Remember, the goal is to resolve the conflict, not to win the argument.
Not to be right.
Right. So when you come back together after the time out, try to be
To
open.
compromise.
Yeah, to finding a solution that works for both of you.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Haha, exactly. And sometimes the solution won't be perfect.
It's about finding that middle ground.
Right. That place where you both feel heard and respected.
And isn't that what a good relationship is all about? Finding that balance?
It is. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It reminds us that, yeah, we might be different, but we can build a love that thrives on those differences.
That's actually really beautiful when you think about it.
It is. It can be a passionate love and a lasting one.
A love that lasts. So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I want to ask you, the listener, what can you take away from all this? What are some small changes you can make to improve your relationships?
Yeah. How can you communicate better? How can you connect more deeply? How can you navigate those Mars-Venus moments with more grace?
Because let's face it, we're all just trying to figure this whole love thing out.
We are.
And sometimes remembering that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, that's all it takes to bridge that gap and create a love that's truly out of this world.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Keep exploring, keep connecting, and remember, love is a universal language.
That's it for this deep dive. See you next time.
Yeah, it's about giving you those tools to work with those differences.
To make those differences work for you, not against you.
Exactly, because, even with all this Mars-Venus understanding,
Right. Even then.
you're going to have those disagreements.
Oh, absolutely. Fights are part of life.
Part of relationships, for sure.
You can't avoid them.
But you can handle them better.
And that's what we're talking about.
Exactly. So how do you fight fair? How do you come out the other side stronger? Well, John Gray, he has some advice on that.
He does. He does. Give us the goods. Like, what are some of his top tips for arguing? Mars-Venus style.
One of the most important things, and he really emphasizes this, is validation.
Okay, validation. Tell me more.
It's about, even if you don't agree with your partner, you try to understand where they're coming from.
See their side.
Yeah, and acknowledge their feelings.
So even if you're thinking, oh, this is so ridiculous,
Right. Even then.
you take a breath and say, I hear you. You're feeling frustrated because.
Exactly. You validate. Sometimes that's all it takes for things to calm down.
Just to feel heard.
Right. It shows your partner you respect them.
Like, their feelings matter even if you disagree with them.
Exactly. And that can make a world of difference.
Oh, it really can. I think there's a quote about that. Something like, we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
Right, because sometimes we forget that. And Gray, he also says to avoid blaming your partner or attacking them.
Yeah, avoid that you always or you never language.
Like you said, you're a team.
Exactly. You're not enemies.
Yeah.
So instead of saying something like, you always do this, try something else.
Like what?
Talk about how their actions make you feel, not about their intentions.
Not making it personal.
Yeah, something like, when you do this, it makes me feel.
It's more about, like, owning your experience.
Exactly, and expressing it in a way that's not going to put your partner on the defensive.
And that brings me to another thing. Taking breaks.
Ah, yes, the timeout.
It can be a lifesaver.
Especially when things are getting heated.
Like, really suited.
Right, and especially for the Martians, they might need that cave time to process,
Cool.
to just think things through.
And for the Venusians, it's a good time to, gather your thoughts.
Yeah, so you can express yourself clearly.
Because, let's be real, trying to have a rational conversation when you're both all fired up, not going to happen.
It's not going to be pretty, but the thing with those breaks, the important thing is to actually use the time to calm down.
Not just sit there and fume.
Right. Go do something to de-stress.
Like go for a walk or
put on some music.
listen to our podcast.
Exactly. Whatever works. The point is to get a fresh perspective, right?
Because ultimately, you're not trying to win the argument.
No.
You're trying to resolve the conflict.
That's the goal. And when you come back together, after you've both had a chance to cool down, try to come back with an open mind.
Ready to compromise.
Yeah. Ready to collaborate and find a solution that works for both of you.
Because at the end of the day, you're on the same team.
You are. And men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It reminds us that even with all our differences,
And we do have them.
we can create a love that actually thrives on those differences.
That makes those differences a strength.
Exactly. A love that's both exciting and strong.
Passionate and lasting. And, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask you, the listener, what are you going to take away from this?
Yeah, what are some small changes you can make today to improve your relationships?
How can you communicate better? How can you connect more deeply?
How can you handle those Mars-Venus moments with a little more grace?
Because let's be honest, we're all just trying to figure this whole love thing out.
We're all in this together.
And sometimes, remembering that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, that's all it takes to bridge that gap and create a love that's truly out of this world.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
That's it for this episode, folks. Until next time.